actors, people were reverent to him. He showed so much respect. He never yelled at anybody. I worked on the show the entire first season and got to do the second season as well in a different capacity. And whenever there was a problem, he would take off to the side. There'd be quiet talking or in the back. Nobody ever got yelled at. There was never any shouting. There was this reverence. When he spoke, and he didn't often talk very loud, people listened. You know, they got close. And it was very obvious immediately how highly respected he was. You know? And watching him work, you know, it was clear that he'd worked in comedy, especially sitcom, a long time because the way everything was blocked. And of course, we were shooting film, and these film cameras that they had, you know, they were probably made in the 50s. They're so old, maybe in the 40s. They're gigantic, and they take there's like 3 or 4 extra people for each camera on the set because you got a loader and you got 2 people pushing them, and there's all these resets in between. They might move to one part of the set, 2 or 3 cameras might reset while we're still filming. So there's all these extra people that you don't see in a regular videotape, and yet he was always, and you could tell that he had worked really hard all week to block it, and the actors were hitting their marks. You know, this was like a finely tuned stage production, not really like a TV show. I'd been to a lot of TV tapings. You know, we had a massive video production facility at NBC, and if they did a sitcom, you know, they might do a scene 5, 6, 7 times. Oh, missed the mark. Let's laugh for a while. Maybe we stop tape. Maybe we don't. Well, with film, you can't do that. That's too expensive, right? You're rolling, you know, 35 millimeter film in 4 different cameras, so there's no messing around. So it has to be executed very tightly. And one of the things that I noticed that he did was that, and funny enough, somebody said earlier that he got a little impatient. He, you know, when a line got blown, it was okay for there to be an outtake, a chuckle, but he would immediately step up and he would get their attention, and then he'd say, action. Ready? Okay, ready? Action. And he would reset the scene. He would make sure that everybody was reset. He wouldn't just let them kind of reset themselves. He would step in and take over so the energy wasn't lost. And a couple of times there was a little goofing around after the ad lib, and he'd get impatient. And he'd say, no, come on, we got to get going, back to places, you know, pick it up from it. And that would be when he would kind of get intense, if he felt like they weren't taking it real seriously suddenly, because it was really serious business to him. He wanted to produce this amazing show. And the pilot, Cheers pilot, was of course an incredible success from a critical standpoint, but it premiered at number 74 out of 77 shows during the week. I mean, it bombed in the ratings. You know.
Interesting.
And if NBC hadn't have been patient, it could have been canceled very easily. But we were desperate for good shows. You know, we were the 3rd-rated network at the time. We were desperate for good quality programming, and there was no questioning the quality of the show that the Charles brothers were writing and producing and that Jim was directing. So they stuck with it. And of course, all you have to do is ask people like Ted Danson and Shelley Long and John, you know, John Rassenberger, George Wendt, all those. You ask those guys, nobody knew who any of those people were before the pilot of Cheers aired. And today they're some of the most famous people in the history of television. Right.
Yeah.
And they made a lot of money, you know, doing that show for many years. So he not only made them famous, but he gave them really good work to do. And they loved to work together. They were a group of people that didn't argue. There was never any discord on the set. They enjoyed having fun with each other, at least in the first couple of years that I was there. That might have changed with time. It often does. But, you know, the best part about the first year was they had the Christmas party on the set, right? They got a bar. Why not have the Christmas party on the set? Yeah. So they hired this catering company to come in, and the caterers were all would-be actors. So they would come in for a minute, they would serve you, and then they'd come back, like one guy came back doing Mae West. And he grabbed Ted Danson, put Ted Danson on his lap, and started doing Mae West with Ted Danson. And when are you going to come see me before? And had this routine that he did, you know. And everybody was laughing and having a good time. Nobody was off doing their own thing. It was like they all enjoyed having fun together and producing this great show. And it's clearly leadership. You know, what made Jim successful? Well, he obviously knew how to direct. He knew a lot of things about the technical aspect. But he was a leader. He had real leadership capability, real leadership quality. He praised people for what they did. He never embarrassed them or criticized them when they didn't do something right. He was supportive. He was never sitting down. He would always move to be behind the camera that he knew that they were gonna edit later on, so that he could make sure he could see exactly what the camera was seeing. he had this ability to move around on the set like I've never seen anybody move before. And he was just kind of an amazing guy,
Wow.
and very serious. Didn't crack a lot of jokes. After taping, he was fine, but when just before taping, during taping, very serious. There was a job to do. They weren't there just goofing around, and I think that's why the consistency, the quality of the show. Obviously the writing was very good, but he really got terrific acting performances. Out of some of those people. And, the original bartender was a guy named Coach, was the character before Woody Harrelson came on, as Nick Colasanto, and he passed away, unfortunately, I think at the end of the second or the third season. And he was the most popular, actually, member of the cast. Everybody was actually crushed when he passed. And he played this really stupid guy. I mean, you think Woody Harrelson's character was kind of dumb. I mean, Nick actually played it even dumber than that, But he wasn't dumb, obviously, look at Tommy Smothers, all the guys that play those kinds of characters, they're the geniuses, right? And Nick was clearly like a genius actor, long career stage, a lot of character parts. And everybody had this very serious thing, but had a great time doing it. There were no egos. And I think that's what made it kind of fun, is that there were no egos. Now, I would occasionally get sent down to work the last season of Taxi, okay? And they had brought Jim Burrows over from Taxi. He had done Taxi. And then they put Ed Weinberger and another guy to direct. They brought the showrunners in because now it was for NBC instead of ABC, and everybody had moved over to Cheers. And Ed Weinberger and Judd Hirsch, one night, the final taping of Taxi, they shouted, they called each other names, I don't think you'd hear in a prisoner. I mean, it got so nasty. They blew right through the dinner. They were rehearsing. They couldn't agree on a couple of the final scenes. They blew right through the dinner break. Now it's time to seat the audience. We've got Barry Diller there, president of Paramount. All these people are waiting to be sat. Ed Weinberger won't let them in. They're in there calling each other names and arguing. I thought, who can work like that? I know it's all about being creative and funny, and that their goal was to do something funny and entertaining. But I mean, the stress. But then you go up to Cheers and everybody's